management strategy. One more time, it is creating a productive learning environment when you have good classroom management strategy. Good strategy that helps that you maintain discipline, increased student engagement, and enhance the overall learning experiences for the students. That's why we have to have good, effective classroom management and strategy. Okay. Then, to have good classroom management strategy, what is key strategy for making effective classroom management? Here, first, you have to establish clear expectations. When you have clear expectations, that means set and communicate rules and behavioral expectations from the beginning. You have to make yourself clear to the students. You have to encourage for the student clearly understand your messages. And next one is create a positive learning environment that fosters respect, inclusivity, and encouragement about students. Also, it is engaging instructional strategy. You have to always keep students actively involved in learning through interactive activities. Another one is implement consistent discipline. Sometimes you have to enforce the rules in classroom, but it should be done in fairly and consistently while using positive reinforcement. Okay, another contents of key strategies for effective classroom management. Also, you have to give encouragement that brings student responsibility. Okay, you have to promote self-discipline by giving students roles and responsibility in the classroom. You should use proactive conflict resolution, that is addressing issues early through discussion, meditation, and restorative practice. Another key strategy is utilize effective communication, which means you have to maintain open communications with students and parents to support their learning. Okay, next slide we are talking about is then what is foundation principle of good classroom management? First, you have to make clear expectations and rules. Let's say what is expectations and rules, which is established in the classroom. First, developing classroom rules. When you make classroom rules, it should be simple, specific, and positively stated. I give you example. Let's say we can say respect others instead of do not talk back, something like that. Okay, do not talk back is negative reinforcement, right? But respect others, it is good way that you can do with positive reinforcement. So you better use clear rules. You can make that clear and do it with positive reinforcement. Also, you can do co-creating rules with students. You're not the only person that you make that rules are made in the classroom. Sometimes you can discuss, you can share the opinions about rules in the classroom with students. So, allowing students to contribute to classroom rules, that is huge meaning. That means increased their sense of ownership and accountability. It is not just about teaching and learning. When they do participate in something like making the rule, they feel like they are becoming part of ownership in the classroom. And then you can help them feel accountability. Accountability is some kind of other form of trust. So, posting and reviewing expectation regularly is also important to make clear expectation and rules. So the rules that should be visible and reinforced through daily routines and periodic discussion. Periodic discussions means sometimes you make the rule, but it is not applying to real classroom settings, right? Then you can modify the rules at the certain time of period. So with discussions with students, you can change the rules. Okay, for good classroom management, storage still foundation of principle of classroom management. Now, another important principle is building positive teacher-student relationships. It is very important. Actually, classroom is not only about teaching knowledges to the students, but also building good relationship with students. So that means it is building good relationship with students, which is about showing respect and fairness. You should treat students with their dignity, and you have to apply that rules consistently. That is showing respect and fairness in the classroom. Always you have to remember making good teacher-student relationship is also about you have to use positive reinforcement. It is like a phrasing, effort, and good behavior to encourage repetition of positive actions. That another component of building student-teacher relationship is you always have to do active listening, acknowledging students' concern, and you have to respond with empathy mind. All these three components are very important for you to make good relationship with students. Because some research shows when you have strong teacher-student relationship, that is contributing to improve student behavior and academic achievement. What do you think? That makes sense, right? You can improve students' academic achievement, and then also you bring good behavior with good relationship with students. Also, I skipped one. Establishing clear expectation and rule. That means, to make those expectations and rules, we have to develop classroom rules and co-creating rules with students, and posting and reviewing expectations and regularly, right? And then setting good, clear, and consistent expectation is also foundational component of effective classroom management. Students must understand what behaviors are expected in the classroom and let them know the consequences coming from their behaviors. So falling to mid, so it means the consequences means is failing of the classroom expectations. When they do, the consequences always falls with reward and enforcement. So when they do good behavior, you good with giving them rewards, and then with bad behavior of students, you can give reinforcement to correct their behaviors in the classroom. Okay. Another principle, foundation of classroom management. The next one is creating structured and predictable environment. It has routines, procedures. That means you have to establishing consistent routines for transitions, assignments, and classroom tasks, minimize confusion and minimizes instructional time. Another component for creating structured, predictable environment is physical arrangement of the classroom. Sometimes you arrange the desks to facilitate collaboration with allowing the teachers to monitor student behavior effectively, right? When they do a collaboration project task, you can change the position of the desk and chairs, right? Like group circle or two desks combined, put together. Okay, here classroom management strategy. Okay, it is a small chapter 4. Now we are actually making classroom management strategy. Okay, you have to remember 3 things. Okay, why we need classroom strategy? It is because preventive strategy. It is responsive strategy. It is long-term strategy for sustainable classroom management. When we talk about preventative strategies, it is about engaging instructional strategy. Next one is behavior. reinforcement strategy. Also, when we talk about responsive strategy, it is about low-key interventions. Another one is logical consequences. Third one is long-term strategy, which includes developing social, environmental, social, emotional learning, and collaborating with parents and guardians. For making good classroom management strategy, three components, right? Preventative strategy, responsive strategy, and long-term strategy. Okay, here first one we're gonna talk about more about preventative strategy. It is focusing on proactive measures to reduce disrupted behavior before that occurs. So you have to make engaging instructional strategies like active listening. You have to do this when you are in lessons. That is, incorporate group work, discussions, and hands-on activities that reduce student boredom and misbehaviors. Active learning. Okay. And then also do this differentiated instructions. Engaging instructional strategy means you have to do differentiated instruction. What is differentiated instruction? It is adjusting teaching methods to meet diverse student needs, which improves engagement and reduce off-task behaviors. Another component for engaging instructional strategy that is clear directions and expectations. You need to give explicit instructions and modeling that is desired for good behavior that makes students understand classroom tasks well. So for making good classroom effective management strategy, first you have to consider it should be preventive strategy. For making preventative strategy, you have to do first engaging instructional. For engaging instructional strategy, it should be done in active learning, differentiated instructions, and clear directions and expectation. These are all components of making engaging instructional strategy. Okay, next one is behavior reinforcement strategy. to do preventative strategies. Okay, so what is reinforcement strategy? That is, reinforcement is consequence of sometimes students break the classroom rules, right? They talk too loud, they don't pay attention to teachers' instructions, right? Then you have to enforce the consequences because of students' behaviors. So that's why we do reinforcement strategy is needed. So when you do make reinforcement to the students of breaking the rule in the classroom, it should be done always in positive reinforcement. It is like this. Okay? Some students, they gossip other students, right? So instead of saying, hey guys, don't talk about bad thing about other students. Don't do this, okay? You just do, hey guys, we have to let's respect other people. That is positive reinforcement. It is important. So positive reinforcement means you have to recognize good behaviors with praise, rewards, or privileges that is encouraging students to repeat those good behaviors. Sometimes you can use, rewards like, give stickers, points on certificates about their good behaviors. That brings positive reinforcement in the classroom. That results students' good behavior in classroom. Also, sometimes you have to encourage self-regulations. Sometimes teaching students how to monitor and manage their own behavior through self-reflection and goal settings. Any kind of method and settings will be good. You give students the time for them to reflect themselves, maybe at the end of the classroom. Okay guys, let's just think about 1 minute how I did, how I performed in the classroom. So I also reflect myself, okay? How I teach knowledges to the students, I do it to myself, and then contrary, you guys as students, also you guys do your own self-reflection. How good I, did on classroom tasks, how I, studied, learned well in the classroom. When you do self-reflection, they think about their behaviors and their kind of achievement in the classroom. So maybe they can say to themselves, oh yeah, I better do more attention to the teacher's instruction. That could be good outcome of self reflections, right? And then also maybe they can say to themselves, okay, next time when the classroom I am in, I better not to talk too much with my classmate, something like that. Yeah. That is a self-reflection. Okay. Another classroom management component is responsive strategies. Sometimes when argument and issues, bad behaviors happen in the classroom, teachers always have to respond with effective discipline techniques that is addressing the problem without escalating conflicts. Okay, when you see the issue in the classroom, you see the argument between two, classmates in the classroom, you always take the problem of that argument between students. Okay, guys, when you argue in the classroom that disturbs other students, okay, that is problem. Also, when you argue with each other, that is kind of seeding bad impressions to each others. So that seed becomes later bigger conflicts, right? So that might be a problem because of bigger conflicts between students. So you have to state, guys, what the problem is like. So when you see the problem should be resolved, right? So you have to do quick response when you see the problems, okay? And then it is meaning not to make escalating, become another level of conflict between students. Okay, when you do this responsive strategy, you have to do low-key intervention. Interventions means simple. Some guys talking about too much with each other, you interrupt. You are making stop them to talk about each other. That is intervention. Okay? You are involved in that action. Hey guys, stop talking too much each other. That is intervention. So low-key intervention is like proximity control. Proximity control is moving close to disruptive student to signal aware and deter further misbehavior. It is something like that. You don't talk directly to the students. Okay, when you see you found certain undesirable behavior in the classroom, right? So something like this, okay? Or sometimes, you give a little bit of sign. That is low-key interventions. Stop talking too much. Also, it is non-verbal cues included. Eye contact, right? Eye contact. You give smile, that means encourage the behavior, right? You give angry face or upset face, that gives stop doing it. Message to deliver to the students, right? Or nod, or shake, that is another signals that you can give to the students. Encourage or stopping of certain behaviors. So that is direct student attention without interrupting the instructions, right? You keep teaching, but when you see something bad, that is low-key interventions. And then another one is redirections. It is gently guiding your students to the task at hand when they become distracted. Okay, it is something like this, when you see two classmates talking too much, you go close, you make eye contact, something like this. That is guiding, directing back to the the topics that I teach, right? So that is guiding, directing students back to class, not to talk too much, not do this, do not, don't do this, okay? Hey, John, Grace, don't talk too much, not this way, okay? Okay, next one is logical consequences for responsive strategy. What is logical consequences? That means it should be always reasonable. What is reasonable? This is reasonable, right? 1 plus 1 comes 2. That is reasonable, right? That is logical, right? Always reason the outcome, the consequence. That should be done in logical way. So, consequence, reinforcement or behavior that should be done in related. Okay, nothing should be done without related to certain behaviors, right? And then always it should be done in respect manner. Why? Why we have to respect each other? That means you maintain the dignity of students, right? let's see the examples of logical consequences. Okay, it is like restorative practice. You encourage students to reflect on their actions and make amends. Like, amends means like apologizing, or also repairing the damages. And then another example for logical consequence should be loss of privileges. Just temporarily, okay, remove privileges like free times, classroom jobs, classroom titles. That is response to the classroom violation. It should be like timeout, right? And then give cool down times. That means you allow students time to self-regulate before rejoining classroom activities. So these are all components of logical consequences. And we are talking about the long-term strategy for student classroom management. What is a long-term strategy? There should be effective classroom management, right? It is also required continuous reflection and adoption, long-term management. The strategy we need. Okay, first, to have long-term classroom management strategy, we have to develop good social, emotional learnings. We call SEL, social, emotional learnings. That helps students develop self-awareness, okay, and self-regulations. And then also it develops interpersonal skills, like how you grade your students, how you grade classmates in the classroom, how you talk to, how you behavior to the classmates. That is social, interpersonal skills. So that means you have to develop your emotional skill. That is social emotional learning. Okay. It is very good. I think it's it should be called like character. Okay. You have good emotional skill. That helps not only your self-awareness, making good relationship with others. That is very important. And that also promotes cooperation. Okay. And then developing social emotional learning. I'll give you an example. Okay. When you see certain student came to class in the beginning of the classroom, right? Then you notice, just girl, she got the haircut, right? Then you can mention that, hey Julie, you did good on your new hairstyle, okay? That is compliment about her changing hairstyle, right? That is good emotional skills. Not just, words coming to your mouth. It is making people, kind of delighted and happy moments. That is components or elements of making good relationship with others. Also, when you teach in the classroom, certain students don't talk, don't make eye contact to me, looking like this, always drop his or her head to desk. Then maybe at the end of the class or after the class, you can talk to your student personally. Hey John, can we have 1 minute or 2 minute talk? Then you can say to that certain student, hey John, do you have any kind of worry? I'm really concerned about, because always you do good attention to what I teach in the classroom, but today I kind of worry. Maybe you have some kind of concern and maybe home or other issues. So can you tell me what it is? That is not only just talking to each other, it is developing emotional concern. You touch students' emotions, okay? When you say those things to your students can feel, they feel, oh, my teacher always, have attention to my behaviors. He always like to take care of me. That is a very important feeling. So eventually that is making good relationship with you and students. Okay, emotional skill not only applies to in classroom settings. Every relationship that works really good in job settings. Just to give good, compliments to your coworker. When you see your coworker getting out of the car, right, in parking lot, when you start the day at the job, right, then you give compliment. Hey John, you got a new car? Nice car, man. I want to have it. That is compliment. That is element of making good relationship. That applies to classroom too. So actually, if you do social emotional learning, that is making good emotional skills, that brings conflict reduces, right? You're always talking good to your coworker, to your students. Once the conflict arises, anytime we can have any kind of chance of involving in conflicts, right? But when you have good relationship with others, conflict was always reduced, right? So conflict is not escalating to higher level of conflicts. So that is encouraging students to resolve disagreements through communication rather than aggression. Aggression is like forcefully enforce your regulations and rules in the classroom, right? Just like light talks that reduces the conflict once you have good relationship, right? So also modeling emotional regulations. That is demonstrating how to handle frustrations or disappointment in destructive manners. Also, another important part of developing social emotional learning, I talk this a lot of time, empathy. Okay, people have a different level of mind. Okay, mind kind of let's say we talk about this many times, like sympathy. I have sympathy for somebody, right? That means when you see somebody involved in car accident, you feel sympathy, right? Okay, feeling of sorry, right? That is kind of sympathy. Also, we have little different level of emotional expression, right? One of them is sympathy, and then another one is like pathetic, right? Pathetic is like something like when you see somebody keeping doing same bad behavior, you get kind of pathetic mind. It is like somebody, they don't know what they are doing, okay? Then they don't know the consequence of their behaviors. It is like giving pity. I have pity on you. I cannot do anything about your behaviors. That you kind of have pathetic feelings, right? And then another one, the highest level of expression of your emotion, it is, I think, empathy. Empathy is the highest level of emotional control, emotional skill that you can interact with other people. Empathy is, I mentioned this in another course many times. Empathy is like what? Put yourself, put myself, someone else's situation. Yeah. I am legal immigrant, right? If you have empathetic mind about what is going on in America, right? What if I am foreign student? I just have student visa. When I see the news, some student got kicked out of schools. Right now, what that happens, right? So that is empathetic mind. Even though I am nothing to do with involved with students, okay? So you can understand with empathetic mind the situation, with students nowadays, what is going on. So that is empathetic. Also, you see somebody who has prosthetic, right? Like fake arm or the assisted legs, right? They put fake legs, right? And then they don't do work well, right? And if you have empathetic mind, you put yourself in that person's situation. It is very, very, I think I call that skill, technique, I want to call it, to build good relationship with others. If I have empathetic mind, in our classroom, certain student comes late, okay? I don't give him bad words, but I wanna encourage him with giving, an empathetic sound, talk. Okay, hey, I know, I understand. You always late to the classroom, but I know. Why? Because you finish your work late, without time, wasting. You just drove 1 hour driving to the school. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, that is empathetic talk. Not talking like, why you always come late? Yeah, that's ruining the relationships. Yeah. So empathetic mind is really, really good skill that should be encouraged in the classroom too. When you teach little kids, that is very good technique. So that helps students understand different perspectives, right? Everybody has different point of views, right? Yeah. Maybe Japanese have different point of view for certain situation. Maybe Korean have different point of view for certain same situation. Maybe Chinese have different, point of view for certain. So that is, bring the respect to our different cultures. Yeah. So empathetic is really, really good. Okay, when I am working in other school, okay, it was kind of my new career. I do work as, like I said before, I do work at administrator department in other seminaries. When I talk to students, I don't only talk about, business-wise, okay? Hey, you're late, you come late. What is the document that I want? Okay, you didn't bring the document. I don't talk like that, When I talk really to the students, hey, John, nice to meet you. You came earlier. Okay, I mentioned it for the certain appointment, right? And then, hey, you came earlier because you like me, something like that, okay? You wanna see me, that's why you came earlier. Or when they come late, hey John, what happened? What's going on? Real friendly talking, that helps to understand each other. Did you have kind of traffic? Yeah, I understand. Nowadays everywhere is traffic, right? That is a very, very good technique to understand each other. That always comes to empathetic mind. I don't talk. You late. You're 10 minutes late. Nothing like that. Yeah. So that is bring a good relationship. Okay. For long-term strategy for good classroom management, also it is important that you have collaboration with students, parents, and guardians. You always let their parents and guardians involved in classroom activity and any kind of classroom management process. That is encouraged, consistent between home and school. You must make strong connection between school and home. Okay? Yeah. With strong connection means maybe it could be relationship, right? Then when you ask something, let's say now school have to have some kind of important project for remodeling the classroom, right? But the government support is kind of low. You don't have sufficient budget, right? So you always kind of lack of fund. If you have home and school connection good, maybe you can encourage parents and guardians for donating their funds to good school and safety. So without that school, home, parents, guardian connection, you cannot do any kind of project that needs the money, right? Also, with good connection, you can have any kind of help from the parents and guardians. So it is very important collaborating with parents and guardians. Like example, regular communication. Regularly you keep email them, you send posts, you send school flyers, something like that, right? That is really good. Keeping parents always informed what's going on in the school. And actually, in classroom, you can report, you can inform certain students' behavior. Recently, John's behavior in the classroom really improved. Yeah, he is a really good child. In the beginning of the semester, he was always talking with classmates in the classroom. But now, he respect people, he respect me, he always follow my instruction. Yeah. He behaves really good. You can report those improvements to parents. And then also you do behavior contract, that is establishing agreement between students, parents, teachers. It is simple agreement, school rule, classroom rule, okay? You can make not only your own rule, okay? You can make those rules with students and parents too, okay? Always students come 5 minutes earlier. That's rule number 1, okay? When you're upset about, certain behavior or talk that is coming from your classmate, don't talk back to right away, okay? Wait like 5 minutes and then give me sign, or after the class drop me the note. Okay, John was making me, teasing me always in the classroom, something like that. Yeah. So that is agreement. You can make with the parents, you can make the student. That is not only your word. Hey, I'm gonna make the word. Don't talk in the classroom, okay? You make parents, students participated in making classroom rules, policies. Also, sometimes you can do parent-teacher conference too. That means you working together with students, parents about students' academic, achievement, students' behaviors, improvement. Yeah. So that is about long-term classroom strategy. Okay. Okay, one more thing, last one. Okay, classroom management strategy. We talked about a classroom management strategy. Okay, and actually it is for making good classroom strategy. You have to also have long-term strategy. Okay, which involves parents and guardians and making good classroom management strategy. Then another one we have is, okay, last one is, okay, we did many times, okay? 5, you also have to have strategy of using technology in the classroom, okay? Technology and classroom management, okay? That is advancement educational technology, okay? You know what it is like, right? You do use many technologies in the classroom. This is also technology, TV, YouTube, audio, video, right? And then also you use online learning management systems, okay? We do, in here, Lordland University, we use classroom, class 365, right? You can log into the website, right? That is LMS, we call it. Yeah. Also, there are many good apps, applications for making you do help of technologies in the classroom. The app is like, okay, yeah, something like this. The application you can use in the classroom. Okay, example like a Kahoot, that is a kind of quiz, a game website. Kahoot, quizzes, reminder, class text, Mentimeter, Padlet, Nearpod, Flip. These are all good applications that you can use in the classroom. Whatever application is fine, okay? Not only this one is perfect, okay? So you can use any popular, you could do any research for using any apps in the classroom, okay? And then, but there is a rule to use that application in the classroom. It is always, you have to align that application with learning objectives, right? Learning goal. If it is good for your learning goal in the classroom, that can be fine. You can use it. Yeah. And then always you have to do this review. Okay. When you use certain application, your students like it. Okay. Your students learn. The academic achievement was huge. Then you want to keep using that application more and more, right? But the outcome was very low. Then maybe you need to make a decision about changing with new learning applications. Yeah. There is a review and discussions. Also, you always have to have balance. 100% not only technology, okay? You have to use it like a 50-50, yeah. Or 30-70, 40-60 portion, yeah. Balance. Not only depend 100% on technology. Okay, I think that's all for today's classroom. Okay, I think we are done this quarter. I think, let me see. Next quarter is we are taking 3 weeks break, right? You're coming May, last week of May, is it right?
Yeah, last week. 29?
Yes, yeah.
So,
So yeah, I wanna see you that I think, let me see.